Damn, it's been so long. One question that I was pondering on myself is about whether I should keep going with this video essay type of content because there's like a dreaded feeling that there's not many people who actually treat this as an actual nugget of knowledge. Maybe it's a fact that people lately are not smart enough for these sorts of videos or to learn anything from these sorts of videos, and then our pursuit of improving society somewhat through educating the masses that watch these videos is stifled people treat these videos as background noise. Doesn't sound ideal that we're living in an AI-driven cyberpunk dystopia without flying cars, where nobody knows what's true or false in every single discourse that the planet faces. But even then, what fucking year is it? I bet I can score another Prolix meme for this one because it seems that fate is my domain. Haha, AI bad. Yeah, I know. We all know that, but even then, there's a scary rise of deepfake scams made with AI technologies by human anonymous con artists where they try to impersonate someone like Elon Musk or Mr. Beast to try to fool you into a scam telling you can still earn magically $5,000 a day by just trading in this suspiciously fake Forex trader. These for the trained eye are pretty much rudimentary enough to tell it's just a bad lip sync over some random footage of Elon Musk with an AI generated voice of Elon Musk, which for the trained ears can be seen easily as AI. It's the Nigerian scams of AI, so to speak, and I think the reason why will be tackled a little bit soon. I got your watch time, folks. It gets especially scary with the coming of AI technology such as OpenAI Sora, a tool to generate AI-generated videos which, for the really untrained eye, are closest to match real human recorded footage. As you can easily notice, AI technology is worryingly advancing in capabilities, and this sort of technology will soon be used for malicious disinformation for either social or political advantage even. Something that I probably most likely hinted in our PlayStation startup video we did a year or two back. It's not just that real creative blogger jobs might be replaced by a machine minds and machine computers, making people lose jobs. It's also that it will distort reality and narrative so much that we don't know what's true or false online. This bloody certified forklift driver was right about this. This tidbit, this utter minimal soundbite rings even more true as technologies like Sora come up. But even then, I know this might sound surprising. I'm still not Prolix. I cannot predict the future magically like I had a crystal ball, nor I feel like a transgender Nostradamus of sorts. Because given that this was a foretold telltale seen earlier, even back in 2020, well, I sort of did predict even before 2020, but still, anyone with the most minimal bit of common sense in their brains could tell this was going to happen. Let me introduce you to this video's main research source for this topic that I've been reading for a while before writing the script. Nina Schick's Deepfakes at Coming Infocalypse. The book is pretty much a general warning and history lesson of the recent years when it comes to AI deepfake technology and general disinformation. The book was also released in 2020 with the coming of the COVID-19 pandemic and all that implies. It is especially a warning about the so-called infocalypse that people like Nina or myself have warned about for ages when you read the introduction of the very early Obama deepfake that tried to warn us about said infocalypse.
There is a viral video of President Obama on YouTube with almost 7.5 million views. The title lures you in. You won't believe what Obama says in this video. Obama looks straight into the camera. Seated in a deep mahogany chair, he appears to be in the Oval Office. He's aged. You can tell from his salt and pepper hair. But he looks confident, relaxed. Over his right shoulder, you catch a glimpse of the American flag. As usual, Obama is dressed impeccably. A crisp white shirt and a blue tie. On his left lapel, he's sporting a U.S. flag pin. You click play. We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything in any point in time, Obama begins. Even if they would never say those things. So, for instance, he continues, gesturing with his hands, they could have me say things like, President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. His eyes seem to glimmer with a hint of a smile. Obama continues, now you see, I would never say these things. At least, not in a public address. Obama never did say those things. The video was fake, a so-called deep fake, created with the help of artificial intelligence, AI. Welcome to the future, one in which AI is getting powerful enough to make people say things they never said and do things they never did. Anyone can be targeted, and everyone can deny everything. In our broken information ecosystem, characterized by misinformation and disinformation, AI and deepfakes are the latest evolving threat.
This sort of deepfake technology is not just being used for Mr. Beast impersonation, scams, or anything like that, but also used for political and social advantage. But I like to think, well, that we're already getting smarter than this, that somehow we could already tell the signs of what is a deepfake and what isn't. Maybe that's what's happening. Or is it?
Boy, everyone is stupid except me.
Despite the title of this section of this video, I don't like to think we're just getting dumber, because that's not always the case with literally everyone on this planet. Maybe you can tell from the people who are just too smart to be good. But I like to think that we as a human species at most plateaued in our own level of intelligence, that our intelligence has remained stagnant for long enough, so we got to a point where we probably can't get any smarter anymore. It's not that we're becoming dumber mostly, it's that we can just get smarter. The trained brains like mine, though, can tell that these AI deepfake scams or propaganda are the same scam methods than before. Hence why I'd said these are the Nigerian scams of AI. It's just that they change in appearance. Normally, a Nigerian scam email is so badly written as a way to filter out the people smart enough to Google Nigerian prints and find out. It has been a Nigerian scams and other scams modus operandi for ages, as well as similar Ponzi schemes and the sort. Before most of you were born, at least, it was a dubiously suspicious pop-up or banner in a website telling you that you won $100,000 out of thin air for being a 1 million visitor of that website. Now it's just a YouTube ad with supposedly Mr. Beast telling you he's gonna give you $100,000 if you click this supposed link. This is not much different from the ye old snake oil scam that happened in the Red Dead Redemption 2 Wild Wild Wacky West. Ponzi invented this scam 100 years ago. Now there's a Ponzi scheme made by some Hitler crypto bot on Twitter every year. There's a particular scene from the movie Revolver that comes to mind when talking about this.
The older the trick, the easier it is to pull. Based on two principles. They think it can't be that old, and they think it can't be that big for so many people to have fallen for it.
And it still seems that there's still a huge subset of global people falling for these scams every single generation. The scams are only getting adapted to the current generation's most global people on the planet. It is also a growing problem of people being global enough to fall for political and social disinformation, leading to growing tensions and divisions to the political scene. You might be all familiar with the Russian bot dilemma faced in the 2016 US election that led to so much disinformation enough to guarantee Trump a seat in the Oval Office. Well, let's just say that Putin in that regard is a perfect James Bond villain for those sorts of political tensions, driven by his own narcissism and political ego, maybe out for revenge for the Cold War or the dissolution of the Soviet Union, because, let's face it, totalitarian tankies are still bad. But what's worse about this is that there's his own particular brand of psyops are as old as before I was probably born, on old poor millennial me, and they still did work. Going back to Nina Schick's book about deepfakes, there was in 1984 a Russian psyop called Operation Infection, made by a central Russian intelligence agency, getting a false narrative about AIDS being created in a US military laboratory to do population control on the African American and LGBT people, in an effort during the final stages of the Cold War to divide American politics enough to create enough distrust in the government for the former Soviet Union and Russia to gain advantage over the decaying American first world power. As Nina Schick later writes,
Operation Infection took almost a decade to go global, but its legacy is still doing great harm. To this day, it is disproportionately believed in African American communities to the extent that it is still hindering HIV prevention among them. One survey of African Americans found that 48% believed that AIDS was an artificially made virus, and 27% believed it was made in a government laboratory. As described by Yuri Bezmenov in 1984, it changed the perception of reality to such an extent that, despite the abundance of information, Americans were not coming to sensible conclusions in the interest of defending themselves.
In American and Western politics especially, considering other countries, including the US even, are to blame on creators of similar disinformation psyops, just look at Trump for that matter, a lot of people, even people of power and influence, are still vulnerable and gullible enough to fall for these disinformation Kremlin schemes. In the same way we still fall for Ponzi tier schemes. The Kremlin did follow suit with other sorts of similar psyops that were only just adapted to the times. Project Lacta, Operation Double Deceit, and plenty of other more similar operations made by other sorts of world powers as well. They are, alongside deepfake scams and deepfake disinformation in politics, the same old trick, adapted to the current times of the day, so still the most gullible of each generation will keep falling for it, even if it was a Facebook tier meme or Hassan Piker soundbite or propaganda on Twitch.tv. I mean, honestly, I like to think we're not all stupid. There's Nina Schick most likely, there's me, and there are these lovely viewers who are still watching this. I love you all. But even myself fell for a trick old enough in my own moment of intellectual weakness to make me nearly eat shit literally and figuratively. And it seems that someone out there, higher in power or influence than us, might want it to be that way. I think that in the dangerously comfortable reality of capitalism, where these sort of scams and disinformation are the norm, we're just grown so comfortable consuming the comfortable lies made by those with higher power or wealth, rather than facing the hurtful truths that people in our level keep yelling soundly about in the sea of noise that is social media and the internet as a whole. People watch this type of video essay content that we at JMAA TV or similar channels make while they eat food, not to learn anything new or valuable, but just to numb their brain enough lest they want some sort of independent thought to uncomfortably pop up, and especially considering the rise of content forms and the rise of the type of empty calorie content that is the mental equivalent of eating glazed donuts, we have to think that the system itself wants us to consume intellectual content the same way as the virtual mental pacifiers hacks and con people tend to make online. Even then, video essays like these tackle problems that are considered the tip of the iceberg compared to the rest of root problems that capitalism and subsequent fascist and imperialist world has created. And this type of empty calorie content, the type of content that is mentally equivalent to eating popcorn, is more rewarded by the platforms and tech companies that freely host them, generating more ad revenue money at the least, such as the drama content. And I know I'm also guilty of this at some degree, but still, where you have to start a fight with someone for easier social capital or straight up capital.
There's no system for punishing it. Not that there necessarily should or could be. In fact, but there is, even worse, there's a reward for it. If you start drama in an interesting way, people will consume that content. So in effect, YouTube is like probably one of the most evil platforms in the world because it specifically rewards being terrible and starting fights in a way that is extremely disconcerting for the future of the human race. And I'm not saying that as a joke.
Think again. If you don't think there's an ulterior, superior motive for YouTube to push this type of content into you over the more intellectually nourishing content that we used to make at some point, enough to keep you numb and stupid enough to generate the money, then what do you think it worked for Harris Bomber Guy when he started drama with James fucking Somerton? Even indirectly, corporations, especially giant ones like YouTube, Google, Alphabet, Meta, Amazon, and so on, are the most evil corporations on the whole planet for the sole reason that they get to control our general populace's intelligence this fucking much. You wanna guess where I got Nina Schick's book? It's a website called Library Genesis, which is normally considered an ebook piracy website similar to being the Pirate Bay of ebooks. But I like to consider it the Library of Alexandria of the internet. My ISP blocked me access from that website, so I had to access that website through a Tor browser to get that book in the efforts of researching for this video. Because I know I like to keep even a physical copy of the book as a prop of this video and be a funny video essayist fellow, but I'm trying my real hard to save fucking money right now, so I can't afford that sort of shit unless someone starts pledging to the Goon Fund. Meanwhile, as part of Nina Schick's choice, she chose to sell this supposed knowledge in an Amazon Kindle ebook, otherwise paywalling this sort of research under a platform run by a billionaire fuck called Jeff Bezos. Similarly, there are sites with peer-reviewed scientific studies which paywall important scientific studies I could research into for these sorts of videos under a monthly subscription, because, you guessed it, money! It's too important to ignore. With this sort of nefarious methods, it's no wonder where capitalism itself sits up on the throne, on top of our own collective blissful ignorance, in a way that they foster even these sorts of scams and disinformation and we keep falling for. It's not because we decided to remain stagnant in intelligence, it's because these corporations, the rich fucks, wants us to be stagnant in intelligence or even dumber, so they keep enriching themselves without falling for their schemes. Capitalism is the greatest scam in history with feudalism behind it. It is that kind of ignorance that keeps us from getting angry enough to flip cars or putting rich billionaires in a guillotine. Honestly, at first, I wouldn't know what kind of useful conclusion or solution I could bring on this video enough to help bring an alternative to the system. I fear that the YouTube algorithm itself even might not want to push this video further, like the many others like it before, because not only I cannot trust the future viewers of this video, or the vast majority of them, to learn anything good from this video, but I also, because of the corporate like YouTube, this video might be detrimental to their end goals. But honestly, wake the fuck up already, for fuck's sake. I think the best I can probably say at this point, given that the majority of humanity are mindless consumers in this dreadful system that makes us believe there's no alternative to said system that makes us live better, I can only say what Zeus said to Narcissus at one point in history. You better watch yourself.
Yeah, greetings, Honey Bum. Sticking out your gut for the wrestler. Yes, Skibbity, yes, Phantom Tax. I just want to be your Sigma. Freaking come here, give me your higher.